When you hear the letters HR, what comes to mind? For a lot of people, it's still paperwork, right? Policies, procedures. But what if I told you that's all changing? That HR is undergoing this massive transformation from a back office function to, get this, the strategic command center for a company's most valuable asset, its people. That's what we're digging into today.
So let me ask you something. What do you think is the single biggest challenge that businesses are wrestling with right now? Just take a second and think about it. Now, your first thought might be technology, right? Or maybe the crazy global competition. And yeah, for sure, those are huge. But believe it or not, they aren't the biggest. No, the biggest challenge, the thing that really keeps CEOs up at night, is the people. Seriously, how do you find the best talent out there? And once you have them, how do you keep them? How do you help them grow and feel connected to what the company's actually trying to do? That right there, that's the new battlefield for business. And, calling it a battlefield is one thing, but it's probably more like trying to navigate a ship through a perfect storm. The business world today is just chaotic. And modern HR managers, well, they're the ones at the helm, trying to steer everyone through these incredibly treacherous waters. And look, this isn't just a feeling, we've got the data to back it up. Check out what companies are saying their top problems are. Almost half, 45%, point to managing change. That's huge. Right behind that, you've got developing leaders. And interestingly, just trying to prove that HR is even effective. These aren't just minor headaches. They are fundamental make-or-break business challenges. So what's actually brewing this storm? Well, it's a few major forces all hitting at once. You've got this constant rapid change, which means what worked yesterday is already out of date. Then there's globalization, bringing in competition from everywhere. You've also got a much more diverse workforce, which is amazing, but it also adds new layers of complexity. And to top it all off, there's a serious lack of critical skills out there, making the hunt for the right people tougher than ever. Okay, so how on earth do you navigate a storm like that? You can't just guess your way through it. You need a digital command center, right? A dashboard that can take all that chaos and turn it into something you can actually understand and act on. So let's take a look at the systems that make that happen. All right, the foundation of this whole thing is the HRS, the Human Resource Information System. The best way to think about this is like the company's central nervous system for all its people data. Every single piece of information, salaries, performance reviews, training records, it all lives here. It's the one single source of truth. Okay, moving up a level, we have the MIS, or Management Information System. So if the HRIS is this giant library of data, think of the MIS as the helpful librarian who finds the exact right books for you and gives you a quick summary. It takes all that raw data and turns it into reports that managers can actually use for their day-to-day decisions. And then at the very top of this pyramid, you've got the DSS, the Decision Support System. Now this is the cool part. This is kind of like the crystal ball. It uses really complex models to analyze all that data and helps the top executives answer those big, fuzzy, unstructured questions. Questions like, how many data scientists are we going to need to hire over the next 5 years to stay competitive? It's all about predicting the future, not just reporting on what's already happened. So you can see how this all stacks up into this really clear hierarchy for decision-making. Down on the front lines, you're using basic data for day-to-day operations. Middle managers use the MIS for those tactical moves. And then way up at the top, the C-suite is using the DSS to set the long-term strategic direction. It's all about getting the right info to the right people at the right time. But here's the real game changer. When these systems all talk to each other, HR transforms from being reactive to being predictive. And that new power forces a massive question for every single business leader. Okay, so we've got these incredibly powerful systems to manage people. That's great. But it also leads to the next huge question. With all this tech and investment, how do you actually prove that HR is adding real financial value to the bottom line? I mean, can you really put a price tag on talent? Honestly, this is one of the toughest nuts to crack in business. For decades, employees have just been seen as a cost on the balance sheet, an expense. But what if we could flip that script? What if we could actually measure them as an asset, as an investment that grows and appreciates over time? Well, that is the big radical idea behind something called Human Resource Accounting, or HRA. It's a formal process for identifying and measuring the investments a company makes in its people and the economic value they create. We're talking about a complete and total shift in mindset here. And this quote from the American Accounting Society just nails it. HRA is an attempt to identify and report investments that are presently not accounted for. It's all about shining a light on this massive blind spot in traditional accounting. It makes the invisible value of your people visible. So how does this actually work? Well, HRA methods kind of fall into two main buckets. On one side, you've got your monetary methods, which try to put a direct dollar value on an employee. And on the other side, you have non-monetary methods, which measure things that are a little harder to quantify, like morale or potential, using things like surveys and tests. Let's make this super concrete with a monetary method. The historical cost method basically just adds up all the money you've poured into an employee, the recruiting costs, the hiring, the training, even the cost of their time while they're getting up to speed. That final number, let's just say it's something like $15,000, that becomes the capitalized value of that employee. They are now officially an asset on the books. Now, another way to look at it is the replacement cost method. This one asks a totally different question. What would it truly cost to replace this person, say your star engineer, today? And this includes not just the obvious stuff like recruiting and training their replacement, but also the value of the lost productivity while that new person ramps up. It's a really powerful way to understand the true painful cost of employee turnover. Okay, so we have the strategy, we have the digital tools, and we have these new accounting methods. But there's one last crucial piece to this whole puzzle. How do you make sure all these different parts are actually working together like they're supposed to? Well, you need a checkup. And honestly, the best way to think about this is like an annual health check for your entire people's strategy. An HR audit is a deep, systematic review of everything, from your policies to your day-to-day practices, to find out what's working, what's not, and maybe most importantly, where the hidden risks are lurking. And this isn't just some random process, it's super structured. You start by defining exactly what you're going to look at. Then you develop a clear plan. You gather and analyze all the data. You produce a report with your findings, and here's the most important part. You create a concrete action plan to fix what's broken, and then you follow up to make sure it actually gets done. So let's just pull this all together for a second. We've gone on this journey from facing a perfect storm of business challenges, to building out a sophisticated digital command center, to figuring out how to measure the true value of people, and finally, to running a health check to keep the whole system in top shape. And what's the bottom line? It's this. When you combine modern strategy, the right technology, and smart analytics, HR stops being a cost center. It's no longer just about paperwork. It becomes the function that actively cultivates, measures, and grows the company's single most valuable asset, its people. So I'll leave you with one final question to think about. In your own organization, your own workplace, is HR just managing the paperwork, or is it actively building the company's future? Thanks for joining me.